Thursday. Good morning, everybody. Oh, good afternoon, everybody. Sorry, I've been here this morning. That's not why. My name is Natasha Maluza. I am currently the Comms Engagement Officer here at the SMP. And so I'll also be introducing my team members this morning. We have Dorothea, who's the Benefits Officer at the back there. You might have met her when you're coming in at the reception area. Then we have Mitch, who's the School Partnership Officer right up front here. Then we have Stuart, the interim CEO right here in front. And we have Chad as well, but I don't see Chad in the room at the moment, but I'm hoping that, oh, there's Chad. We have Chad over there as well. And so I'll just be briefly telling you about the fire drills today. We don't have any fire drills. However, we do have fire exits right behind you. So the two doors right here, so these are over there. So you'll see the keep it right.
Hello. Okay. Yeah. So we don't have any fire drills, as I mentioned before, and we also have the toilets, which are located so to my left, so right outside here, and then to my far right, so close to the reception area. So if you walk in right to you walk in and then take a left, and then they'll be right there as well. And please, if you do have any questions, please feel free to go to any of my team members. I'll be handing you over to Chad.
Thanks, Natasha. I just wanted to take 2 minutes to ask for your help this afternoon. In the spirit of simplicity, we have hopefully maybe you've seen as you've come in, there are 4 trolleys full of whiteboards that are out in the seminar or the exhibition area. And those 4 trolleys have questions on them, and they are 4 different questions that are very, very basic questions, which we're going to put on the screen just now. And so throughout the afternoon, as you're having your networking breaks and your coffee and tea, we'd appreciate it if you could wander up and take a whiteboard pen and just add to the whiteboards any thoughts that pop into your mind. So like I said, the very basic question is, what do we do well? Now, this is in context of the SMP, because that's why you're here this afternoon. What could we do better? What could we do that we don't do now? And final question is, what should we stop doing? So the 4 different trolleys have 4 different questions on them. So as you make your way around, there are extra boards and stuff. I meant to bring a board with me to demonstrate because I'm a teacher and I would have a visual aid, but I forgot it. So if you could take some time this afternoon, we'd really appreciate that feedback. While you're here this afternoon is one of the ways of getting some new and fresh ideas as we plan forward. We are now, or have we already, had our Zoom guests joining us, and we'll proceed with our program for the afternoon. So as means of welcome us properly here to the University of Glasgow, I'd like to call on John Briggs to have a couple of words for us. Thanks.
Thank you very much indeed. Good afternoon to everybody. Very, very warm welcome. I'm John Briggs. I'm a trustee of the Scotland Malawi Partnership, and also now emeritus professor here at the university. So I guess in that capacity, I want to welcome you most warmly to the institution, to the university, and certainly to this building, the Advanced Research Centre. This building has been open for just about a year. It's designed to promote interdisciplinary research, including the enriches international development, which I'm personally very pleased about. But the ground floor here is an open access area. It's one of the things the university was keen to do with this building, is to open this up to the public, the general public, to have events like this in here, and to bring people in, to bring schools in, to bring the local community in here. So it's a delight to see that the SMP has decided to have the annual gathering, not just in the West, but here in the Advanced Research Centre. I hope everybody has a really good afternoon. I've already seen some very active conversations going on, which is a delight to see, and I'm sure there'll be plenty more as we move on through the afternoon. So please do enjoy yourselves, get as much out of the afternoon as you can, and I hope to see and speak to a good number of you as the afternoon goes on. Thank you very much indeed.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ian Mitchell, or four of the Mitch. I've just taken over the Youth and Schools Officer with the Scotland Malawi Partnership. But I also volunteer with Commonwealth War Graves. And as most of us will know, today this is the Armistice Day. Okay, we celebrate the 11th of November. And perhaps for some of you might not realise, but the very first naval action in the First World War took place on Lake Nyasa. A few weeks after the war was declared. And I'll put together a short sort of video presentation there on one of the boards you can see in the way in. So if you wonder why there's a rolling screen about Commonwealth war graves there, it took place in Karonga, and there's several the soldiers actually buried on Karonga Cemetery. The other big thing is there's a big push on now for the non-commemoration. So there were about 1,700 Malawians who died with the forces and were never commemorated in the same way. The British soldiers, the South African soldiers, were there a big push on now to kind of repair that damage, if you want to put it. Okay, so that's very much part of it. You may have seen that there's been a link recently between the Malawi Defence Forces and the Commonwealth War Graves Commission. So if you get a chance, have a look at it. I'll find it quite interesting. I'll put it together. I'd now like to introduce the Chief Executive Officer of the Malawi Scotland Partnership. Okay, my esteemed colleague, okay, Stella Martin-Bonner.
I cannot express how good it is to speak to everyone here at the 2023 Scotland Malawi Partnership Annual General Meeting. It is exciting just to watch the momentum. To eradicate poverty. Muli bwanji nonse. Ife tili bwino ku Malawi kuno. Please, let me extend my greetings to all the participants of the 2023 Annual General Meeting from here in the very home.
Not here, with a slight technical with the audio. Sorry, a slight technical glitch with me not switching the microphone on. We'll try to come back to our colleague Stella Masangano if we can at a later point in the day when the audio is working. Minister for International Development, Deputy High Commissioner, Honorary Consul in Scotland, Professor Briggs, our host, chairs of the Scotland Malawi Partnership, the Malawi Scotland Partnership, the Association of Malawians in Scotland, MASP CEO friends, all protocol observed. Everybody online and in the room is equally welcome. Thank you very much to the University of Glasgow, Professor Briggs, Mary Ryan in particular, for hosting us today. In March, over 100 young people gathered together in the Scotland Malawi Partnership Youth Festival to celebrate their understanding and experience of global citizenship. Meaningful, equitable, two-way interactions between our young people have a profound impact on perspectives, on attitudes, and for some life choices. And I think we've a role as perhaps not so young people in encouraging and preparing and stimulating the asking of questions amongst young people towards achieving respectful, dignified, two-way learning opportunities. Our theme today is friendship and global citizenship. And sadly, we just need to listen to the news from Malawi, from Scotland, from Ukraine, from the Middle East, to know that global citizenship is more important today than ever. But let's take heart from the civic society effort between Scotland and Malawi, which is inspiring and is uplifting, with friendship at its core, benefiting both nations. In the SMP, we've sought to listen to feedback from previous years of events such as this, and today there's more time for interacting, to reconnect with old friends and to make new contacts. In the past year, 37 Scotland-Malawi partnership and partnered events were attended by around 2,500 people in Scotland and Malawi, with 96% saying that coming together strengthened their Scotland-Malawi link, and that's really what we're about as a facilitating network. The less I speak, the more time there is to listen and discuss. So please just let me express my great thanks to my colleagues and the staff and the board of the Scotland-Malawi Partnership and the Malawi-Scotland Partnership for their great efforts, to the Scottish Government for funding us, and to you inspiring members between Scotland and Malawi. I look forward to speaking more with you later today, and I wish everybody a really stimulating, encouraging and positive day. But to start us off, we have a letter from His Excellency President Chikwera, which is going to be read by Her Excellency the Deputy High Commissioner, Honourable Justice Agnes Patemba. Justice Patemba.
Mulibwanji. Thank you. Honorable Minister, all protocol observed. I'm here to read the message from His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Malawi, Dr. Lazarus Chakwera. Dear Scotland, Malawi partners, as we gather to celebrate and further explore global citizenship, my thoughts are with you. Albeit, wishing I was able to join you in person. However, since I'm prevented from doing so by prior obligations, I elected to send my Minister of Tourism, Honorable Vera Kantukule, to represent me along with officials from our mission in London. Even so, I felt compelled to write you directly with a few words of my own. From what I know of your commitment to people-to-people exchanges between our two countries, it comes as no surprise that you are renewing your pledge to the pursuit of friendship today. The design of this meeting around reuniting and rekindling our deep-rooted connections is an opportunity to take our partnership to greater heights in the coming years. As both our countries grapple with the challenges of the troubled waters of economy and global diplomacy, we must make the most of the wellsprings of mutual solidarity that Scotland and Malawi share to unlock our new links and collaborations. I was personally fortified in this belief when I met First Minister Humza Yusuf in London in May, and when he also attended the address, the Malawi Partners Conference that I hosted on the margins of the United Nations General Assembly in New York in September. I'm thus looking forward to seeing Malawi and Scotland stand together in support of the concerns of the Global South at COP28 later this month, especially amplify the voices of our youth who have every right to demand a sustainable future. Additionally, I'm hopeful that the First Minister's desire to visit Malawi next year will be yet another opportunity to expand our partnership in matters of mutual benefit. All in all, my friends, let us remember that even though we have endured so much together, our commitment to each other and our renewal of the same at this gathering is a promissory note
that guarantees that the best days of our partnership are yet to come. God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Justice Matamba. I'm wondering whether our audio is working. Fabulous. We have a message from the First Minister of Scotland, Hunter Youssef, MSP.
I'd like to offer a warm welcome to everyone attending the Scotland-Malawi Partnership Annual General Meeting this year. I hope that the Honourable Minister Kamta Kelly has arrived in Scotland safely to join today's proceedings. I'm very sorry that I can't be there to greet you personally, but I'd like to thank you all for strengthening the rich and varied civic connections between our two countries. Scotland is very proud of our special relationship with Malawi. Personally, I have many fond memories of the very warm welcome that I received during my first visit to Malawi in January 2014 as International Development Minister. During that visit, I saw firsthand some of the earliest Scottish Government funded projects in Malawi, and I'm currently exploring the possibility of returning to the warm heart of Africa in 2024. I know that the past year has brought with it many challenges for Malawi. Tropical Storm Freddy caused devastating disease, loss of life, and loss of way of life right across the country. The Scottish Government stepped forward quickly to support Malawi in response to Storm Freddy, with £400,000 in humanitarian assistance, helping to provide food, shelter, and improved access to water, sanitation, and crucially healthcare. Increasingly destructive tropical storms like Storm Freddy are a constant reminder of climate injustice, and the extreme heat wave Malawi faced in October has only added to the strain. Scotland is absolutely determined to play our part in addressing climate injustice, and we will continue to stand in complete solidarity with our friends in Malawi. In September, at New York Climate Week, I was pleased to announce that we will be extending our funding to communities impacted by Storm Freddy in Malawi by £300,000 in partnership with the Scottish Catholic International Aid Fund. This funding was additional to £500,000 awarded in the last financial year. The programme has so far reached over 86,000 people, protecting them from future floods by helping to build resilient homes and by increasing access to safe drinking water. When it comes to climate injustice, Scotland's special relationship with Malawi is making an important difference. It's a small but significant example of how countries can work together to set new precedents that can be replicated elsewhere. I look forward to working with you more closely than ever on this and many other important areas of cooperation. And I wish you all the very best for today's proceedings as you nurture vibrant and impactful civil society partnerships together. Thank you.
The First Minister, and it's a great pleasure to welcome in person the Scottish Government's Minister for Culture, Europe and International Development, Christina McAlvey, MSP.
Thank you very much, Stuart, and good afternoon, everyone. Are you well? Yeah. Yeah, the sun's shining. Yeah, the sun's shining. Honourable Minister, Deputy High Commissioner, Partnership members, and all you distinguished guests, it's my privilege to join you at this year's AGM to share some reflections with you all on the special friendship between Scotland and Malawi. I would firstly like to thank the team at Scotland-Malawi Partnership for bringing us together today and for facilitating this important discussion on friendship and global citizenship. My goodness, do we need it at this point in time? We really do. So a very warm welcome to both the Minister for Tourism of Malawi and the Deputy High Commissioner. Welcome back to Scotland, Honourable Minister. Looking forward to hearing from you. Thank you for making the journey to join us here today. And I know that from your time leading the Malawi Scotland Partnership, you are what we call a well-kent face. That's translated into just a face that we know and we like. So a warm Scottish welcome to you today. The Scottish Government continues to place great importance on the bilateral relationship between Malawi and Scotland, and it has stood the test of time. One of the very first memories I have of the new Scottish Parliament was the formation of the Scottish Malawi Partnership, and that said something to the world about how we look out, support our friends across the globe. And we're still learning on how to be good global citizens. We will learn together, I'm sure. I think you will know, and many of you will be aware, that this year marks the 150th anniversary of the death of David Livingstone in 1873. I've been an MSP from Lanarkshire until they changed the boundaries in 2011. I did have the David Livingstone birthplace in my constituency. It's that lovely Clare Hockey that gets to look after it now. And I know that some visitors went along this morning to visit the new centre there. I do have David Livingstone's family church in my constituency, so I'm still blessed for that. But historically and today, our friendship is one built on mutual respect, understanding and cooperation. Although I was appointed as Minister for International Development only in March this year, feels like March was just yesterday and we're almost in the middle of November. You know, it was a real joy for me to realise I would be working with you on the Malawi Partnership, given my visit to Malawi 15 years ago now with the Westminster Foundation for Democracy, and also served on the cross-party group in Malawi. I got to tour from the long way up to Nakata Bay South with the lovely Aleki Banda and spent some time with his family there, and I have very, very fond and warm memories of that. So I've always been inspired by the passion of and the dedication of everyone who works in the Scottish Malawi Partnership and the Malawi Scotland Partnership, because that's really important to realise that this goes both ways, and it's meant to go both ways. So today I want to recognise those individual links and connections between Malawi and Scotland, held by so many of you here today, to continue to drive the relationship forward. And I'm really looking forward to developing and renewing my relationship. The importance of the work of the Scottish Malawi Partnership in coordinating and supporting these people-to-people links cannot be overstated. I'm grateful to you for your commitment and dedication, even during these challenging times. I know the past will be difficult for Malawi, with a severe cholera outbreak, the devastating impact of Tropical Storm Freddy. To support Malawi's response to Tropical Storm Freddy, the Scottish Government provided an additional £400,000 to deliver food, shelter, and improved access to water, sanitation and healthcare. And more recently, in New York, our First Minister also announced an additional £300,000 to support communities in Malawi impacted by Storm Freddy, with funding through SCIAF. You have just heard from our First Minister today, and he has very, very fond memories, and I was hoping to get to Malawi next year as well. I think I may be trumped by the fact that he's the First Minister now. Well, that's how it goes, but those connections will still remain just as deep. Scotland will continue to stand in solidarity with Malawi as you seek to overcome these challenges and build your brighter future. And that was something that struck me when I was there, about how dedicated people were for making the outcomes and the lifestyle and the communities better for the people who lived in it. And we hopefully will play a small part in supporting you to do that. So I was really delighted to hear the theme of today's conference is friendship and global citizenship. And as I said earlier, this is times when I think we really need to know what that means, but also to understand and support its aims and ambitions. The concept of good global citizenship, particularly, so much of the Scottish Government's work, both at home and in Scotland and internationally. It is our commitment to global citizenship that has driven a transformation in our international development work, and more to come on that in the weeks ahead. And as we work to develop and implement our review of our approach to international development, this is not done alone. This is done with you telling us what you need and giving back that power. And I feel that's an incredibly important part of the work that we've done in the review here. In alignment with our international development principles, we have committed to ensure that our work is partner-led. Our new thematic approach has therefore been developed in collaboration with our partner country governments. There's just something wonderful about a baby scaling, isn't there? Let's think about the future. So we are further supporting a shift in power from Scotland to Malawi through the creation of an advisory Global South panel to the Scottish Government. We're not saying we're the experts, we certainly aren't. We're going to speak to you, the experts, so that we can get our interventions right. This panel gives representatives from Malawi greater say in our approach as our approach evolves, breaking down barriers, participation, and harnessing a diverse range of new voices and new ideas to drive real change. Towards implementing our review, we have also listened carefully to the views of smaller CSOs in Malawi too. So we are making it easier for global South organisations to apply to us directly for funding. And we have been co-designing the new Global Citizenship Fund for capacity building for small CSOs with civil society organisations themselves. And thank you for your work in helping us to do that. We're also developing new long-term Global South directed partnerships. A key example being our support of Kamazu University of Health Sciences. And to put it simply, the Scottish Government is committed to partner country-led and inclusive development, to equality, to amplify Malawian voices, and to inclusion and diversity. And over the next year, the Scottish Government will begin to launch our new international development programme in Malawi. In our new programmes, we will partner with Malawi to tackle communicable diseases, support inclusive education for those who have additional support needs, and provide financial support to advance the rights of women and girls, for example, through our new Women and Girls Fund. This programming has been very much guided by our partners in Malawi. We have also committed to take a feminist approach to international relationships and will continue to explore how we can apply feminist principles to our future international development work. This commitment fits well with our international development principles and our aligned commitment to shifting power. And as a former Equalities Minister, music to my ears when I hear that's the route that we are taking. As the Scottish Government takes this forward over the next year and seeks to sustain and grow our relationship, the voices of people on the ground in Malawi will be more important than ever. The role of the Scotland-Malawi partnership in building these civic connections is the fundamental importance. Thank you once again to Stuart, his team, all of your hard work, and I really hope you have a very enjoyable and dynamic AGM today. I said earlier in my remarks, you want to hear the voices of Malawian people here, so you'll be glad I'm at the end of my speech and you can hear from some of the experts that we are working with. I really look forward to working with you, continuing working with you, to developing new relationships, sustaining older relationships, but building a future where we are all good global citizens. Thank you so much.
So thank you very much, Minister. It's brilliant to hear of your personal connections with Malawi. You're having travelled there 15 years ago before, and I know that you were a very active member of the cross-party group in Malawi as well. I do hope that both you and the First Minister will be able to make it to Malawi next year. Now, there's been a major tourism expo in London, and the Honourable Minister for Tourism, Bjorn County has been there, and I think we can go to a video message from Honourable County.
Now that I'm done with my business here in London, the Scotland-Malawi Partnership is having their annual gathering this year at Glasgow University. I think it just makes sense that I attend, based on our 150-year relationship that we have between the two countries. See you soon.
Pepsi! Pepsi! How do I get it? Can you get us there?
so much. That's just like how we do things at SMP. So thank you so much, Stuart. Honourable Minister, thank you so much for being here. I also want to recognize all the government officials here present, Stuart Brown and your entire staff, all the board members of the SMP, all members of the Scotland-Malawi Partnership. Thank you so much for having me here. I think some of you suspected that I'll be here, but I wasn't here, but now I'm here. So anyway, I asked that as I speak, I wanted some photos to be running on the slides, because today I brought a different message. As you may be aware, I'm the Minister of Tourism now in Malawi. And so before I go on, I wanted just to highlight a few things that I needed you to be to notice about Malawi. I know you already know about these things. So we have a fiscal space that is very narrow in our country. We are struggling with debt at the moment. And also we have a forex problem. I think you are already aware of these things. And so the government has recognized that we need to have some alternatives. So we have a AGM strategy that is being run by the President of the Republic of Malawi. So we are focusing on agriculture, tourism, and mining. And then the tourism is now at the center of our structural transformation, which is why all of you now come in. As you do what you do, today we were with, what's the name of the lady we were with today? Isabella. She's coming in with the SMP's chairperson to Malawi in February. And I was saying, now we know you go to Nkoma Hospital, you do all these things with cancer patients and whatever, but I need you to come to Malawi with a different perspective. I want you to come to Malawi from the tourism perspective, where you expose yourself to the country and the country exposes itself to you. And by doing that, you discover who you really are. And so in a brief moment, I don't know how this works. This works like this. Oh, maybe, yeah, okay. So this is the history that Malawi has with Scotland. So it dates back to 150 years from when Dr. David Livingstone first came to Malawi. And today we were at the David Livingstone's birthplace, and I went there with a biased mind. I thought I already knew everything that I needed to know about Dr. David Livingstone. I was shocked by what I saw. She was asking me to say, have you learned anything? I said, 90% of what you have told me here, I didn't know. Now, if I didn't know, and I think a lot of Malawians also wouldn't know. And so this is what we need to do. So we were working already to ensure that we have a trail of Dr. David Livingstone that shows people, because I think now history has been made as an optional course. So we are losing heritage, but I want us to bring it back, and Dr. David Livingstone Trail, I think in about 4 districts, is a way to do it. So this is it's a church in the north. Can you come and show me how this is supposed to be shown? And then this is Blantyre City. And we are in Blantyre today. Which arrow am I supposed to use? Okay. Okay. Yeah, you need to close this one because the wedding is here. So I need to do this. This is Livingstone Church in Rumpi. I need to be able to see my words there. So if you could remove those things up there. Now, this is the majestic Lake Malawi. So I don't know, everybody knows about Lake Malawi when they come to Malawi. Everybody knows about Lake Malawi, but I wanted to show you something that you may not know. Number one, Lake Malawi has over 1,000 species of water, of fish. The only water body in the world to have 1,000 species, and that's a minimum of 1,000 species of fish. Now, at Lake Malawi National Park in Mangochi, you are going to find 350 of these fish. They are called cichlids in one place. There's a place at Cape Maclear, you stand on a rock and you see all these beautiful fishes in one place. That's what Lake Malawi does for you. And I wish I had a computer because this is not working for me. Maybe if you could be changing the slides for me, because this is not working. Okay, it's gonna destroy my module. So I'm just going to speak to you as me. So and maybe you can just have the slides just coming in as I speak. So maybe that would also, I only have 5 minutes. So the majestic Lake Malawi, but I think the things that I wanted to show you today, they're not necessarily what you already know. I wanted you to see the stories behind these people. The fact that everything about Malawi is connected to human beings. When you talk about the cichlids of Lake Malawi National Park, when you talk about the majestic Mulanje Mountain, When you talk about the culture, everything about Malawi is connected to human beings. It's connected to a story that you need to embrace. It's connected to a story that people need to see. What we have been lacking in Malawi is about how do we develop the products that appeal to different kinds of people. So when you go to Lake Malawi, for example, what exactly are you seeing over and above the lake? This is the cichlids that I was talking about. When you go to Lake Malawi, what else are you seeing above the cichlids that you're able to see? Somebody may be interested in the cichlids, but another person is interested in the birds. Another person is interested in tea, for example. Another person is interested in hot springs of Kota Kota. It doesn't matter what you're interested in. That forest that you're able to see is made from one tree. One tree, it made an entire forest. But there's a secret behind that. I heard that there are women, if they were not having babies and they go to that place in that forest, move around a bit, in the next 9 months, they would have babies. Those are the stories behind that. So it has something to do with barrenness, and barrenness of business, barrenness of the womb, barrenness of everything. So if you are stuck in your work, you go to that forest, things will start moving. But I don't know about that, you know. So if you go to Mwanje Mountain, if you go to the Sapitwa peak, everything around it, something to do with the people that are surrounding that area. And this is what we are trying to do in terms of international development, which is where now the Scottish government comes in. We are talking about green investments in the tourism sector. And we are saying, why should somebody be supporting tourism? As you're supporting tourism, or as you're coming to Malawi to see all of these things, you're also helping the contributions to the development of the people, the livelihoods of people. This is what we are doing in the green investments. We are saying, if you have a lodge or an eco lodge or whatever it is, it must be able to contribute into the lives of the people that are surrounding that area. So for example, we have Majete Game Reserve in Chikwao. So they are promoting beekeeping, they are promoting the women groups, there's an ECD there, there's an early child center development there, there's a lot of things that are happening. Why? We want to demystify what tourism is all about, because until now, people in Malawi thought that tourism is for white people, or when people come from outside the country coming into our country. People thought about tourism is about going to the lake or just going to the mountain. And this is something that Black people don't do or Malawians don't do. So we wanted to demystify what tourism is all about. Where somebody looks at a hippo, somebody looks at an animal, a rhino or a lion, they must look at it as a thing of beauty. And they must say, without that lion being in that game reserve, my children shouldn't be going to school. Without this lion, I shouldn't have that medicine at that clinic. That's what we are trying to do. And so when you promote tourism from whatever it is that you're doing, so when you come, you're going to your cancer center in Coma, you're going beyond the health issue that you're going to see there. There's something else that you're seeing. You're contributing towards the livelihoods of people. At the end of the day, you're contributing to the development of Malawi. I am standing here today before you and I'm saying, I'm not coming to you with a begging bow, but I'm saying help empower Malawi, because we are naturally so endowed. God has blessed us, but we are facing challenges. And you can help by helping to promote brand Malawi. This is a heritage, that is a bridge that has been there, and the people there, they have said, we don't want this bridge to be modernized. This bridge has been there for over 100 years. It's called Kande. Kande is because it's suspended, you know, like that. So the people have said, they just maintain it as a community. They say, we don't want it to be modernized. We want it to remain the way it is. And it's a beautiful place. It's a place of heritage. This is what I'm talking about, where the tourism is part of the culture, it's part of us, it's part of who we are. And that's what we want you to help us with. When you're coming to Malawi, all of you, you need to have that tourism perspective with you. You may have been doing it already, but until now, maybe you didn't have a government official asking you to do the same. I'm not asking you to do that. So, and the key thing there for me is that when you see these things, you tell another person that is going to tell another person that is going to tell another person, and our numbers are going to grow. And of course, I want you to spend your money. So the two key functions that we are promoting in the midst of tourism, as I conclude, is number one, we are promoting destination marketing. Number two, product development. All these things that I'm saying and I'm showing you, we have not developed them to a certain level where they will appeal to people. So for example, when you go to Lake Malawi, what else is there? We want people to have a lot of activities. We want to tire you when you get there, because there's so many things that are happening at Malapi Hills and all of that. So we have a tourism master plan. It's a 20-year master plan. It has all these projects, about 103 projects within that master plan. But we cannot do it on our own without investments, without partnering with other people, without partnering with our friends that with whom we have been friends for 150 years. That amounts to something. It's why I came all the way from Malawi to say, I want to be there. I'm already in London. Stuart, can you slot me 5 minutes so that I come and talk to my friends and say, Malawi is open for business. We are here to work with you. And even if you know other people that want to work and invest in Malawi in the tourism sector, we'll be more than happy to help you with that kind of information. With those few remarks, allow me to say thank you very much for listening, and also thank you very much for welcoming here. Thank you so much.
So we have an official mandate to go on holiday. We're now going to share some of our own experiences of global citizenship between Scotland and Malawi, just really to, I suppose, share amongst us a little bit of a flavour of some of the thematic work that goes on between the two nations. Dr. Christine Campbell, would you be happy to kick us off?
Thanks, Stuart. Good afternoon, Minister and Minister. Good to have you and esteemed guests. I'm Christine Campbell from the University of Edinburgh, and with Malawian and Scottish colleagues work on the Scottish Government International Development Fund project looking at cervical screening in 8 hospitals, 34 health centres across the length and breadth of Malawi. I've been privileged to work with colleagues there for the last 10 years, involved in upskilling and training colleagues and nurse providers, in strengthening infrastructure, and with over 100,000 women screened for cervical cancer. Thank you.
And here's all our requirements.
Oh, thank you. So Jimsy and I create a podcast which is called People to People, and it's all about the relationship between Scotland and Malawi, and we would love to speak to anybody here about it. We tend to have a conversation with someone in Scotland and someone in Malawi. It's very informal, very friendly, very connected to what's going on just now. No topic is off limits. So come and chat to us.
Yeah, but anyone at all. Emily?
I didn't get any warning there. Thank you. Yes, I think we've spoken to lots of people, and I can't wait to speak to Vera in person, actually, having been at the same conference about volunteering on Thursday. I was really inspired by your attitudes and really loving the sea change that I've seen with also other people that were here speaking at that today. And we've had the privilege of working with young people in Malawi to sort of change the way that people see trips to Malawi, and definitely about learning about things like resilience, this sort of two-way learning that takes place.
Professor Eddie Duncan from the University of Stirling.
Thanks, Stuart. Good afternoon, ministers and everybody here. We're working with colleagues at Kamuzu and Mubas universities in Malawi to address topics of road safety for children and young people. Road traffic collisions are the largest cause of death for children and young people in Malawi. And we have a project going on with 10 schools in Malawi at the moment, an intergenerational project to really empower them to work and to understand the problems of road traffic safety, but then to work as global citizens, speaking to power and intergenerational events, speaking to politicians and to civic leaders to lobby for changes in road safety. Alongside that, we're geospatially mapping the collisions that happen in southern Malawi. In Blantyre district alone, in the last 10 years, there were over 26,000 road traffic collisions. And we're geospatially mapping each one of those incidents in order to work with the Directorate of Road Transport and Safety Services to target specific interventions to improve road safety in those areas.
Professor Tracy Morris from the University of Strathclyde.
I'm joined by lots of Malawian colleagues from Strathclyde too, so give a wave, everyone. Yeah, delighted to meet you, ministers, and speak to you all today. Strathclyde had a very long relationship with lots of different institutions in Malawi over the last 25 years. please feel free to come and talk to Pamela about those at the stall outside if you'd like to. Working across health, public health, water, particularly renewable energy. We're delighted to host the Scottish Government Global Renewables Centre at Strathclyde at the moment as well. And very much work on that on a partnership basis. So we've helped to build capacity. We're now very much led and always led by our Malawian colleagues in terms of what the priorities are that we work with. And as someone who lived in Malawi for quite a while, very much enjoyed the tourism aspects, Rita, and very much miss them. Now I live back in Scotland as well. So make the most of those when I go back to visit. Thanks.
Caroline Beeson from Kenyawi Kids.
Thank you. Kenyawi Kids are an orphan care charity, and we promote sustainable orphan care. We've also proudly stocked Kibaby Malawi products all made in Zaleka refugee camp. So please do visit us. And my Nico, my youngest volunteer, is hoping to be himself. Yeah, we really are excited to be here today and looking forward to chatting to everyone at our stall. So thank you.
Dr. John Rwanda.
Thanks, Stuart. Thank you. I think I'm going to show off here. I was very taken with the presentation by my Vera Kantuhule, and I'm going to show off because she was at my daughter Nepis's wedding a few months ago. Anyway, my involvement with Malawi takes the individual approach. I'm not a committee person. I believe if you do it individually, things sometimes go well. And I've always encouraged the young Malawians I meet to do individual things. And if they are of a committee, then of course, do committee. So my activities fall into the formal and informal. The formal ones, the older ones of you might remember me sitting when John McCracken was retiring in Sterling. I was there selling my books and CDs. That was in 1992. I'm still doing it. Okay. I am involved in publishing books about Malawi, music about Malawi. In that regard, I work with publishers in Malawi, Kachere particularly, and the Copyright Society of Malawi. Formerly, I run a small, my nephew calls it social enterprise. We lose money, farm, because it supports 10 families. Okay. I don't know what will happen now with the devaluation, but it's another matter. And then I'll be going through the SMP list, looking for your emails. I also support my local school, St. Martin's Primary School and St. Martin's Hospital, because for a long time my father was headmaster of that school, and we're trying to replace a block that was damaged through Hurricane Freddy. So if you get an email from me for GoFundMe, that's what it's about. Thank you.
And I think if our audio is going to play ball, we'll be able to hear from Stella Masangano. I think we might need to do that another time. Actually, so we'll come back to that if we can. Professor Heather Keith.
Thank you, Stuart. Oh, no, what should we do? What a great start to our friendship and global citizenship meeting. It's not on, we just. Right. What a great start we've had to our annual gathering, Friendship and Global Citizenship. It's great to have our guests from Malawi and also to have our talks from Minister McKelvey, and also the video from our First Minister, and indeed the letter from the President. So all of these are really important things. I know that Minister McKelvey, that you've got a tight schedule, as so often happens, but we have something that we'd like to give you and wonder if you would like to come and receive a small token from us of the Malawi.
What are they giving him?
Thank you so much for being.
Goodness only knows.
Wooden.
It's a fucking giraffe.
Where?
No, it's not. It's a giraffe. It's come off of thingy's
Minister
mantle.
Kampakula, it's lovely to see you again. And we have one for you too. So please, would you come and receive?
I've got to take home.
And now we move on to the next section.
Oh, nice. Okay, yes, I do want to say this.
Basically just an invitation to go out and have a cup of coffee. For 15 minutes, and please be there and back here in 15 minutes for the continuation of our program.
We prepare our dinner.
Yeah.
Okay.
I cannot express how good it is to speak.
Yeah. Thank you everyone for coming back. We do have a bit of a break scheduled after our discussion groups, which is a good 25 minutes long before we wrap up for the afternoon and have a bit of music at the end of the afternoon. Before we get started in a very, very quick AGM, as you know, we had a bit of a technical hitch with our video earlier. So I think we have Stella's video queued up and ready to go. So we'd like to play that. She made the effort to send it to us. So we'll watch that first before we hand it to Heather.
I cannot express how good it is to speak to everyone here at the 2023 Scotland Malawi Partnership Annual General Meeting. It is exciting just to watch the momentum of how our partnership has evolved over time, creating jobs, synergies in various sectors between Malawi and Scotland in an effort to eradicate poverty. Muli bwanji nonse. Ife tili bwino ku Malawi kuno. Please let me extend my greetings to all the participants of the 2023 Annual General Meeting from here in the very home heart of Africa. The board members, members of Malawi Scotland Partnership are saying muli bwanji. They are greeting you. SMP theme for this year is friendship and global citizenship. It is a profound acknowledgement of the collaborative journey undertaken over the past 12 months between Scotland Malawi Partnership and Malawi Scotland Partnership, in line with the Scottish Government International Development Strategy as well as Malawi Vision 2063. Simultaneously, it serves as a compass guiding us towards a future marked by continuous development and positive transformation for both nations. Global citizenship requires us to navigate the limitation of national borders and form strategic alliances between Scots and Malawians in addressing volatility, complexes, and ambiguity of the two nations in line with the strategies of the two nations. In our pursuit to inspire the emerging generation of young Scots and Malawians, our collaborative efforts with SMP have generated new life into school partnerships. The fruits of these collaborative efforts are evident in efforts to revamp school partnership, which became dormant due to COVID-19. We are collaborating more closely with our sister organization to improve the governance systems in the school partnership and ensure that this partnership in the schools benefits everyone. Taking our commitment a further step, Malawi Scotland Partnership has actively engaged district technical working groups, ensuring that these impactful activities initiated by school partnerships are not only recognized but also celebrated at local levels, transforming them into invaluable learning experiences for aspiring partnerships. It is very crucial to recognize that Scotland and Malawi have worked hand in hand for decades. This AGM provides us with an opportune moment to devolve into the reciprocal and symbiotic nature of our relationship. Delegates and friends, let the discussion of this afternoon serve not just as a forum, but as well as a spring of inspiration, propelling us to explore innovative strategies that yield enduring impact in Malawi and Scotland. Moreover, let this deliberation further generate the fabric of mutually beneficial relationship between our two nations. As we navigate the agenda set before us, may our shared endeavors continue to illuminate the path towards brighter, interconnected future where the bonds of global friendship forge a legacy of positive change for generations to come. Zikomo kwambiri asichimwene yanga asichemwali yanga. Thank you, brothers and sisters. God bless you.
Good to meet again, face to face, in the fascinating new and inspiring building in the University of Glasgow. I hope you've already met old friends and some new ones in the marketplace. And of course, there are more opportunities coming later in the programme. But the main raison d'etre for an annual meeting like this is to go through some of the business of the organisation which lets us run next year. It only takes a short time out of a fun day, but it is essential. So firstly, I'd like to ask my colleagues if there have been any noted apologies and to ensure that they will be recorded in the minutes. for this year. And minutes, of course, are one of the first things that have to be dealt with, so that we must approve the minutes of last year's AGM. All of you, indeed all members, should have been able to access the web link, and it was sent out recently, to see a copy of the minutes of last year's AGM. That, of course, was our first in-person event for members since the pandemic. Can I ask, have many of you read them? Can I ask if those from amongst those who were there last year, I could have a proposer and a seconder to adopt these minutes? Have you read them? Anyone? Thank you. Thank you. Who's Claire and Tracy? Thank you very much indeed for that. The second item of business at an AGM is the annual report. Now, producing an annual report takes a considerable amount of time for our small SMP team. All the information is already there in different places on the website, and it will be brought together in a more formal looking annual report in digital form. Of course, basically, an annual report is just a glossy way of covering what we have done all through the last year. It goes hand in hand with our annual account, which in turn encompass the narrative report of the trustees. That narrative forms the basis of the annual report. So you do already have access to the trustees' report, and the glossier annual report will be on the website by the end of this year. If you've been following the website, you can see at a glance just how much our small team has achieved with a tiny income of around £250,000 a year. Great credit must go to all of the staff who make such a sum stretch so far. But it's also a credit to you, the membership, for participating in events and volunteering, as today, to help run them. In a minute or two, I will hand over to our chair of the Audit and Finance Committee, John Fanning, to go through the annual accounts. John was co-opted onto the board in April of this year, following Claire Martin's departure, and is now standing for election as a full trustee. But before I do so, it's important that we elect new trustees, because no organisation can keep going without a turnover of trustees. We need to replace those whose terms of office are ending or who have had to resign for different reasons. You should have also been able to read quite a lot about the election process on the website. See who is standing, read about them, and make your own judgments. As you will know, and has been expressed there, any board, particularly perhaps the board of a charity, needs to have a wide range of skills available amongst its board members. Otherwise, there will be gaps in the way it can run its business. This year, we have 9 vacancies on the board. That's representing more than 50% of the total board, against our aim of roughly 1/3 in each of 3 years, because a term of office is 3 years. So we're a bit out of kilter right now, and hopefully we'll correct it very soon. It includes 5 whose periods on the board have come to an end, and who should be thanked most sincerely for their commitment and their contributions. Firstly, those of you who were here last year may remember that Douglas Young agreed to stay on for an extra year, having already served 3 terms of 3 years, but as chair of the HR committee, so that we could work our way through the CEO appointment process after David Hope Jones's resignation. Due to personal reasons, Douglas had to resign in September, but we are very grateful for his valuable contributions for nearly 10 years, and we wish him and his family well for the future. Jeremy Bagg. Jeremy has been great to have on the board. He was always one of the first to contribute to board discussions with a perspective much wider than his academic background. Very quickly, he volunteered to join the HR committee, which was an enormous help. Jeremy was only in his second year of appointment, but sadly, family health issues led to his resignation in September. Even more sadly, Jeremy's wife died just last week. You're much in our thoughts. I can't see you just now, Jeremy, but I know you're here today. You are very much in our thoughts and in our prayers. Thank you for all that you have done for SMP and will do so in the future. John Briggs. John, who introduced you here because he's been so involved in the development of this building, generously committed to one term on the board, at the same time as being president of the Royal Scottish Geographical Society, an onerous task in itself, and indeed a trustee of another charity, or maybe a chair, I'm not quite sure. John's contributions were always solid, informed by experience, and latterly, his contributions also on the HR committee have been immensely helpful. Gift Thompson. Not only did Gift reduce the average age of trustees significantly, but more importantly, he brought experience from the youth committee, where he had played a major part through all of his years in Scotland. His Malawian perspective has always been helpful, and we like to think that Gift has gained from being a young trustee as much as the board has gained from having him. Now back in Malawi, we've had to say farewell, but sincerely hope that Gift will become involved in MASP in the near future. And finally, another of our Malawian colleagues, Tioni Talamanja. Tioni has completed 2 terms of office, and his calm approach to deliberations has always been much appreciated. Tioni now spends a lot of his working life abroad, including currently in China. So he's unable to seek re-election for a 3rd term, but his diaspora perspective and his valuable expertise in the energy sector, both in Malawi and Scotland, will be missed. So to Douglas, Jeremy, John, Gift, and Tioni, we send our very best wishes for the future and the hope that your links with the SMP will be maintained. Three existing trustees are willing to undertake another term of office, and we're very grateful to them too for providing the continuity that is required in any board, and perhaps especially the board of a charity. They are Susan Dalgetty. Susan has been associated in different ways with the SMP since the 2005 formation of the partnership. She then had a gap, but in recent years, she's been a board member, is currently vice chair, and is seeking a 2nd term of office. Blessings Kuchali, it's another of our Malawian members of the board. Blessings has completed 1 term as a trustee and is seeking re-election. She gives not only that diaspora perspective, which I've mentioned before, but also through her work with Malawian initiatives for national development, through Tier Fund and through SCIAF. And John Fanning, whom you'll see in a minute, but for now, whose picture is up top, 3rd along. John has been a loyal and invaluable member of the Audit and Finance Committee since 2012. And he was co-opted onto the board during this year to take over when Claire had to come off after completing more than 9 years of service there. John's position now requires election by the membership to continue. So I would like to ask the assembled members if they approve the re-election of Susan Dalgetty and Blessings Kuchali and the full election of John Fanning. Thank you for that. So having, as you will know, seen that there were gaps in the composition of the board, we also asked for new trustees. And we've had 5 applications which cover a range of skills as outlined in their little bios that have been available to you on the website. I'm only going to summarize in a single sentence for the sake of time, but you can read their whole bios there. So first of all, and perhaps you'd like to stand as I speak because some of you are here, Edward Duncan. Edward's based in the University of Stirling and has been closely involved with the Road Traffic Authority, Traffic Police and the Fire Service in Malawi. Works with partners in the University of Edinburgh and will bring a very new dimension to the board. Thank you, Eddie. Barry Claassen. Barry has decades of experience working with Malawians in clinical settings, especially in the area of emergency medicine, for which his team has received many awards and has been an advisor to with the British Red Cross. Barry will bring health perspectives onto the board, but also an experience which is long and enduring. Thank you, Barry. Yona Matemba. Is Yona here? If not, then his picture is up here, second from the left on the lower row. Yona was co-founder of the Association of Malawians in Scotland, and he has been an SMP board member some time ago, in fact, probably about 10 years ago. He's currently chair of our Higher and Further Education Forum, and his current work concentrates on decolonial and anti-racist approaches in education, another very valuable perspective for us to have at this time. Kevin Simpson. Kevin is next to Yona, in the bottom row there. Kevin has been associated with Malawi Fruits, which he founded in 2015, and is currently its CEO. And his great experience in charity leadership and governance will be of value to the board. He contributes regularly to trade discussions with Scottish interests and funders, and that too is a different dimension. And lastly, but not least, John Wiley. Until recently, John was head of international development and innovation for Police Scotland, and he led a number of their programs in Malawi and Zambia. John has actually been a member of our safeguarding committee for the last 2 years. And again, he will bring both expertise in safeguarding and in HR onto the board. All of these 5 have, of course, been proposed and seconded in their individual applications. But may I first ask the assembled members if they approve the election of each of them to serve as trustees of the Scotland-Malawi Partnership for the next 3 years. That is Eddie Duncan, Barry Claassen, Yona Matemba, Kevin Simpson, and John Wiley. In the absence of any objections, I therefore propose that these 5 should be appointed as trustees to serve the Scotland-Malawi Partnership for the next 3 years. To make this formal, can I perhaps ask for a proposer and a seconder for the adoption of these 5 names as new trustees on the Scotland-Malawi Partnership? Christine and
Lydia.
Lydia, thank you very much. Thank you. Good. So this brings our board up to 15. Our constitution allows us to have up to 16 members. So it could be that we could co-opt a 16th member in the year if we feel there is a need, or we can carry on with 15. I'm sure everyone will pull their weight, and be assured that we do work hard to ensure the process is as transparent, accountable, and rigorous as possible. Thank you all very much. That concludes my part of the core business of the AGM, and I'll now call on John Fanning to take over and take us through the financial report. Thank you very much.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. For those of you who haven't met me before, my name's John Fanning, but obviously you know that now through that little process there. So as Heather said, I've been on the Audit and Finance Committee for quite some time now. But this is the first time I've stood up on this stage and introduced these accounts in this way. So let me just run through what we've got here. So as you'll be aware, we have a set of annual report and accounts, and Heather explained earlier on how those two documents are essentially linked into one document, and they're available through the website. Has anybody actually downloaded these accounts already and had a look at them? Don't want to embarrass anybody, but I haven't put the hand up. Look, one or two people are nodding to suggest that they probably have. I have, obviously, but anyway. So it sort of sounds like a little bit obvious, but I'm just going to explain really the purposes of a set of accounts, really. So the annual accounts sort of fulfill quite a number of different purposes. Our accounts, it's probably just worth bearing in mind, our accounts are charity accounts. Now, for those of you who are familiar with accounting and have seen other accounts before, there are quite a lot of similarities between a set of charity accounts and those, for example, for a company. But there are one or two differences, and a little bit later on in this little chat, I'll explain what those are. But they're all, both commercial and charity accounts are essentially trying to fulfill two or three different purposes. And those are to sort of fulfill certain responsibilities that those organisations have. So it's important that organisations report to their funders, and Scottish Government have given us, as Heather said, the kind of £250,000 a year of funding. It's only right and reasonable that we report externally on that activity. Our members and other people have also given us £35,000 a year in fees and all the rest of it. So again, the responsibility to report to the people that are giving the organisation money. There's also the discipline of preparing a set of accounts enhances the responsibility of the organisation to have effective governance. So the Board of Trustees take a role in the approval of these accounts, and by doing that, they fulfil those key responsibilities. There's also obviously for both a company and for a charity an obligation to lodge publicly information about their financials. So a company will lodge their accounts at Companies House. We have to lodge ours with the charity regulator, which in our case is OSCR. So there's a formal public requirement there. And there's also an obligation on both a company and ourselves to have external validation of our accounts. And I'll explain how we do that in a few moments' time. And all of this activity helps the trustees evidence and go through the disciplines necessary to provide the proper governance that we need over public funding. So it's quite important that we fulfill all of those things. And as I say, the necessity of preparing accounts and reporting on them and accounting at forums like this helps us to fulfill that obligation. So I mentioned before, there's a couple of differences between a company's accounts and charity accounts. And the three most important distinctions in this space are if a charity has to report, and you'll see this in the numbers, on restricted activity or restricted funds and unrestricted funds. So restricted funds are monies that are given to us for a specific purpose. And the money that we get from the Scottish Government is given to us for a specific purpose. So when you look in our accounts, you'll see quite a large amount of money coming through as restricted. The money that we raise from members and from commercial activities, that's unrestricted, and we can use that for a broader range of purposes. Now, the Scottish Government require us to report in quite some detail about what we do with the money that they give to us. If anybody's really interested, that goes through a process called the log frame. And there are something like 45 or 50 different outcomes that we have to evidence to the Scottish Government. That's quite an onerous responsibility that's going on there. If anybody's interested in that, then ask Stuart and the team about what we need to do there. So restricted funds and unrestricted funds, important concept in charity accounting that isn't necessarily there in other accounting. The other concept that's very important in charity accounting is having what's called reserves. So the reserves are really there to provide financial resilience for the organisation, and it's a necessity or it's a requirement on trustees to write into the annual report and accounts what their policy is towards reserves and how much money that they think that that we need to keep. Now, our reserves, the board and the trustees are of the view that our reserves are probably too high at the moment. They're higher than they need to be, and there's a bit of a review going on at the moment to understand whether there are some surplus funds in there that we can release for other purposes. So this time next year, hopefully we'll be able to report back on what we've done with that process there. Excuse me. And then the final thing to just bear in mind is that there are one or two curiosities in accounting in a charity that you wouldn't see in a company. And that's because a charity has to report under a set of financial disciplines called the charity SORP. So SORP stands for Statement of Recommended Practice. And I'll mention one or two oddities that you get from the actual numbers in a few moments' time. So three quite important differences there between what happens in a company or indeed a public sector organisation and a charity: restricted versus unrestricted reserves and accounting using the charity SORP. So if you go into the annual account, you'll see it's a 23 page document. So the first 12 pages are basically the report of the trustees, and they tell the story of the background in the current year. And Heather's already explained a little bit about that there. If you get to page 12, you'll find the report of the independent examiner. So I mentioned earlier on that a charity has to have external overview of its accounts, commensurate with its size and structure. So you probably heard the phrase used before: audit, external audit. So if we were a much larger organisation, we would have to have an audit, but we fall below the threshold for the requirement to have an audit. So we have a slightly lesser level of overall insight, which is called an independent examination. That's still undertaken by people with financial qualifications. It's still undertaken according to fairly strict criteria as to how that work should happen. But it doesn't have the full all-embracing scope of an audit. So it's important to understand the difference between the scope of the audit and the the independent examination. If we were to grow beyond the threshold figure, which is unlikely, but it's possible, then we would have to move up to the audit. You can actually elect to have an audit if you wanted to. You can choose to. You can say we think it would help our members to get greater transparency. And every year the audit and the finance committee consider whether we should do that. And most years we decide, well, every year we decide not to, partly because we're not a large enough organisation to justify that, and partly because it would entail some extra expense, which we don't think is required or necessary under the circumstances. So once you've got beyond the report of the independent examiner, which in our case basically gives us a completely clean bill of health, you'll get into the individual financial statements. So the first one is what in a traditional business would be called a profit and loss account. In a charity, it's called a statement of financial affairs. And that shows a very small operating deficit, or effectively our income is fractionally less than our expenditure. In this year, that deficit was £3,645 on a total income of 266,000. So it's not a hugely worrying figure. Just to remind you that the vast majority of that income is the Scottish Government restricted grant. One thing you might notice in the SOFA is that the comparative figures, if you look at the comparative figures from last year, they are very different from the figures that we've got from this year. And that is because last year there was a one-off special adjustment to do with the transformation or the movement of our status from being a traditional Scottish charity to being what's called a SCIO. So that's an odd adjustment in there. And you might remember earlier on in this talk, I said that there are one or two aspects of the charity SORP that are different from what you would see in a traditional accounting environment. And that one-off adjustment there is one of those ones that's been forced through by the charity SORP. If you look at it, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. It's just an oddity that we have to show in that situation there. The other important financial document is the balance sheet. So that effectively shows the net worth of the organisation at this moment in time. That's down by £3,645, coincidentally enough, because we've made a loss. The net worth of the organisation falls by the amount of the loss. As I said earlier on, we think that amount is probably a little bit too high at the moment. We don't need to have a thick end of £130,000 sitting in our balance sheet. We suspect we can get away with a bit less. There'll be a bit of work done on that. Come back to next year. One thing you won't see in our accounts is what's called a cash flow statement. A lot of organisations have a cash flow statement. If you're a very large organisation, you have to have one of those. We don't have to have one, so we don't produce one. But the cash difference can be seen on the balance sheet, and there's only a small movement of about £1,000 from last year's starting position to last year's end position. So overall, that's a little introduction to what we've got there. Just by way of just by way of how these accounts have been prepared and reviewed, we have Alan Laverock internally. So he's a qualified accountant. He's prepared these accounts in his role as our finance manager. they've been reviewed by the Audit and Finance Committee, which has 2 chartered accountants on it, myself and Claire, plus some other people involved in business activity, plus a doctor. So, I don't mean to be rude there, but we have a doctor on there giving us our unique perspective on financial accounting. Thanks to Rachel for the input that she gives to us on that one. Finally, the board had a look at these accounts as well. The Audit and Finance Committee recommended these accounts to the board, and the board were pleased to accept them. So before I move on to the actual formal request from this group to give their approval, does anybody have any questions on anything I've just said, or indeed anything that you may have seen in those accounts? Yes. I think it's probably just a timing difference with the deficit of that small size, so something, we may well have received an invoice at the end of March that we'd anticipated coming in the start of April. So it'd be probably a minor difference. If we get to that situation that I talked about before, where we might want to reduce the size of the balance sheet, then we would have what would be called a planned deficit in that situation. So we would deliberately choose to make a loss, and that would cause the balance sheet value to fall. But that would be something that would have been budgeted. So we would have been in control of that situation. So next year we may see a bigger deficit, but that would be a planned and controlled deficit. But I don't think, the size of that deficit on the turnover isn't something that gave the AFC any concern when we were reviewing these numbers.
So you've got specific areas of work?
Not yet, but that's what we will do as part of this review. So that review will essentially be 3 stages. The first one will say, do we think we should reduce this? Yes or no? If the answer to that is yes, then how much should we reduce it by? What figure should that be? And then the third stage would be, well, okay, if we want to do that, then what activities would we propose to get into to do that? So it's effectively that 3-stage process. Should take place really before the end of our budgeting process, and then we will move into a new financial year on the 1st of April that we would then put in place those activities that would enable us to do that. Any other questions at all? That's 2 more than you had last year. Was that 2 more than you had last year, Claire? So, obviously, I've said too much. If I'm inducing people to ask questions, I'm saying too much here. But anyway, right. So I think the formal business that we need to undertake here then is that we are asking the meeting here to adopt and approve the annual report and accounts as the first stage. So should I? Can I ask whether the meeting is happy to accept these accounts? Yes, no. Yes. Okay. So the second stage the second feature or the second outcome that I need to ask from the group is to do with independent examination. So our independent examiners, Wiley and Bissett, have said that they are prepared to continue to undertake this task. But the charity law and good practice requires that we confirm that each year at the charity's annual general meeting. So if I may ask the group whether they are, or the assembled group here in the meeting, whether you are happy to continue with Wiley and Bissett as our independent examiners. Okay, good. Right. So that's also approved. So those are the 2 formal pieces of business that I needed to transact here. I think that's more than enough on finance and accounting for today. If anybody does have any other questions, then you know who I am and you know where I'm sitting. So you can please feel free to come and speak with me later. Don't know if you did this last year because I wasn't at the AGM last year, but it's probably just worth saying a big thank you to Claire for her input on standing on this seat, standing on this lectern for several years before me. And she and I had a number of discussions on the handover. I'm very pleased to take on the role, both on the board and as chair of the Audit Finance Committee. But as I said, she's kindly continuing in role on the AFC, and her very wise and sensible counsels are much appreciated. Thank you very much, Claire.
Thank you very much, Heather and Don, for that, and thank you all for coming back and being with us for that important business. We are now going to say farewell to our friends that are online on Zoom, and thank you for joining us for this section. We hope it was worth your while, and we'll see you all soon, while the rest of us get ready to prepare for some discussions. So I'll just bye-bye. Don't want to bore them with the next part, but thank you for joining us. So.